Terrible Tudors, gorgeous Georgians, slimy Stuarts, more Victorians, woeful wars, ferocious fights, stingy castles, daring knights, horrors that defy description, cutthroat council, bull Egyptian, vicious Vikings, cruel crime, punishment from ancient times, Roman rotten, rank and ruthless, cavemen, savage, fierce and toothless, groovy Greeks, rainy sages, mean and Muslim Middle Ages, gory stories, we do that, and your host are talking rats. The past is no longer a mystery. Welcome to Horrible Histories. Terrible Tudors.
Anyone who's lived around these parts or ever knew us is well aware that you should never mess with the Tudors. My granddad Henry VII, he beat King Richard. That's him pictured, defeating the type. He liked his name so much that, to keep alive his memory, he called his own son Henry. What was he like? Everyone said Henry VIII was a baddie. I have to agree, even though he was my daddy.
Just popping out to chop some wives.
'Cause we're Tudors, Britain's biggest feuders, and just like barracudas, we go with methods foul. Tudors, each enemy are Tudors, at least we're not as rude as Simon Cowell.
My reign was quite notorious. I liked to hunt and slaughter.
But then you had a daughter, Mary was her name.
It was a son I wanted, so I divorced her mother.
Then wife two had another.
A girl, not again.
Oi! That's me you're talking about!
Tudor, superior to Tudor, who followed me as ruler.
Best not to ask.
It must have been my laddie.
Yes, sickly little Eddie was ill and soon got deady.
And who came next?
Your daughters then took over. First came Bloody Mary. My sister's rule was scary. So all hail me. Tudors, the history books refute us as nutters and big bruisers who kill and cull. I never had an heir, so our reign ended there.
We may not have been fair,
but we were never dull.
Horrible Histories.
Tudors love chopping people's heads off, and this week in Oh Yay magazine, it's our execution special. We've got exclusive pictures of the execution order Queen Elizabeth signed for her own cousin Mary Queen of Scots. Also this week, my axe shame by Mary's executioner.
Oh no, I'll let the big occasion get to me, I'm afraid. I kept hitting her head and her shoulders instead of her neck. But luckily the story has a happy ending. I sawed through her neck gristle. Result.
And don't miss our exclusive survey. Which Tudor monarch is the meanest? Or are they all just as bad as each other? That's all in this week's Oh Yay magazine.
The Axe Factor.
It's a Monday morning in Tudor England, and a batch of new recruits are about to see who's up to the challenge of landing their dream job.
It's not just about chopping people's heads off. There's all sorts of skills required in the job. There's hanging people, dropping people in boiling oil, chopping the limbs off, and then, of course, you got the slitting people open, watching the stomachs fall out.
Right, you're out!
Oh, please, sir. I've got so much more to give.
God, I didn't even mention pulling people's lungs out. Oi, watch me shoes! Vamos!
The remaining recruits are set to their first task, which is to lift the axe.
So what makes you think you can do this job, Sonny?
I like the uniform, and I just want to be independent, you know, stand on my own 2 feet. 1 foot.
Next! Right, listen very carefully. The type of noose used in a public execution varies according to the time of day the execution is to be carried out. This is the 7 o'clock noose. This is the 9 o'clock noose. And this is the noose at 10. And this is the person that wrote that joke. Now, what makes you think you should be given the job?
Well, I've got the axe, and you haven't.
Good point. Welcome to the tower.
Henry VIII really was a terrible Tudor. If he didn't like you, he'd have your head chopped off. He even beheaded 2 of his wives.
In this week's issue of Oh Yay magazine, Henry VIII's latest wedding, we ask, will Catherine Parr go the distance, or are we heading for another beheading? Plus, Henry VIII tells of his heartbreak at the Anne of Cleves divorce.
I chucked her because she was a minnow.
And Anne Boleyn's manky 6th finger revealed. Was it an abnormal extra finger, or was it just a wart? It's a wart! All the goss, all the pics, on all the latest beheadings, only in this week's Oh Yay!
And now let's look ahead to what we can expect to see raining down on top of us in the streets of Tudor Britain over the next few days. Once again, we're forecasting lots of poo and pee, here, here and here, everywhere in fact, as this is Tudor Britain, where people go to the toilet in buckets and throw it out of the window. And it's not just buckets. Sometimes people stick their bottoms out of the window and poo directly onto the street below. And if you're on the street below, directly onto you. So we can expect sudden showers of wee, heavy poo downpours, and with this level of hygiene, some showers of vomit, with conditions becoming slippery and in some cases rather smelly. Oof. So, a summary then. If you're living in Tudor times and walking in the streets, be sure to wear a big hat. Have a nice day. Ta-ta.
Terrible Tudors.
Divorced, beheaded and died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. I'm Henry VIII, I had 6 sorry wives. Some might say I ruined their lives. Catherine of Aragon was one. She failed to give me a son. I had to ask her for a divorce. That broke up her heart, of course. Young Anne Boleyn, she was 2. Had a daughter, the best she could do. I said she flirted with some other man, and off with the chop went dear Anne. Lovely Jane Seymour was 3, the love of a lifetime for me. She gave me a son, little Prince Ed. Then poor old Jane went and dropped dead. Divorced, beheaded and died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. I'm Henry VIII, I had 6 sorry wives. Some might say I ruined their lives. Anne of Cleves came at 4. I fell for the portrait I saw. Then laid eyes on her face and cried, she's a horse! I must have another divorce. Catherine Howard was 5. A child of 19, so alive. She flirted with others, no way to behave. The axe sent young Cath to her grave. Catherine Parr, she was lost. By then all my best days were past. I lay on my deathbed, aged just 55. Lucky Catherine, the last, stayed alive. I mean, how unfair. Divorced, beheaded and died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. I'm Henry VIII, I had 6 sorry wives. You could say I ruined their lives.
Exciting news! Henry VIII is looking for a new wife.
Oh no.
What did I say?
Horrible Histories. Terrible Tudors, gorgeous Georgians, slimy Stuarts, more Victorian, woeful wars, ferocious fights, stingy castles, daring knights, horrors that defy description, cutthroat council, bull Egyptian, vicious Vikings, cruel crime, punishment from ancient times, Roman, rotten, rank and ruthless, cavemen, savage, fierce and toothless, groovy Greeks, brainy sages, mean and middling Middle Ages, gory stories, we do that, and your host are talking rats. The past is no longer a mystery. Welcome to Horrible Histories.